This out-of-print book recording is produced by Gabracadabra Studios. Title of this book, The Hidden Persuaders by Vance Packard. Copyright 1957. Chapter 1. The Depth Approach. This book is an attempt to explore a strange and rather exotic new area of American life. It is about the large-scale efforts being made, often with impressive success, to channel our unthinking habits, our purchasing decisions, and our thought processes by the use of insights gleaned from psychiatry and the social sciences. Typically, these efforts take place beneath our level of awareness, so that the appeals which move us are often, in a sense, hidden. The result is that many of us are being influenced and manipulated far more than we realize in the patterns of our everyday lives. Some of the manipulating being attempted is simply amusing. Some of it is disquieting, particularly when viewed as a portent of what may be ahead on a more intensive and effective scale for us all. Cooperative scientists have come along providentially to furnish some awesome tools. The use of mass psychoanalysis to guide campaigns of persuasion has become the basis of a multi-million-dollar industry. Professional persuaders have seized upon it in their groping for more effective ways to sell us their wares, whether products, ideas, attitudes, candidates, goals, or states of mind. This depth approach to influencing our behavior is being used in many fields and is employing a variety of ingenious techniques. It is being used most extensively to affect our daily acts of consumption. The sale, to us, of billions of dollars worth of United States products is being significantly affected, if not revolutionized, by this approach, which is still only barely out of its infancy. 2/3 of America's 100 largest advertisers have geared campaigns to this depth approach by using strategies inspired by what marketers called, quote, motivation analysis, unquote. Meanwhile, many of the nation's leading public relations experts have been indoctrinating themselves in the lore of psychiatry and the social sciences in order to increase their skill at engineering our consent to their propositions. Fundraisers are turning to the depth approach to wring more money from us. A considerable and growing number of our industrial concerns, including some of the largest, are seeking to sift and mold the behavior of their personnel, particularly their own executives, by using psychiatric and psychological techniques. Finally, this depth approach is showing up nationally in the professional politicians' intensive use of symbol manipulation and reiteration on the voter, who more and more is treated like Pavlov's conditioned dog. The efforts of the persuaders to probe our everyday habits for hidden meanings are often interesting purely for the flashes of revelation they offer us of ourselves. We are frequently revealed, in their findings, as comical actors in a genial, if twitchy, Thurbarian world. The findings of the depth probers provide startling explanations for many of our daily habits and perversities. It seems that our subconscious can be pretty wild and unruly. What the probers are looking for, of course, are the whys of our behavior so that they can more effectively manipulate our habits and choices in their favor. This has led them to probe why we are afraid of banks, why we love those big fat cars, why we really buy homes, why men smoke cigars, why the kind of car we draw reveals the brand of gasoline we will buy, why housewives typically fall into a hypnotic trance when they get into the supermarket, why men are drawn into auto showrooms by convertibles but end up buying sedans, why Junior loves cereal that pops, snaps, and crackles. We move from the genial world of James Thurber into the chilling world of George Orwell and his big brother, however, as we explore some of the extreme attempts at probing and manipulating now going on. Certain of the probers, for example, are systematically feeling out our hidden weaknesses and frailties in the hope that they can more efficiently influence our behavior. At one of the largest advertising agencies in America, psychologists on the staff are probing sample humans in an attempt to find how to identify and beam messages to people of high anxiety, body consciousness, hostility, passiveness, and so on. A Chicago advertising agency has been studying the housewife's menstrual cycle and its psychological effects in order to find the appeals that will be more effective in selling her certain food products. Seemingly, in the probing and manipulating, nothing is immune or sacred. The same Chicago ad agency has used psychiatric probing techniques on little girls. Public relations experts are advising churchmen on how they can become more effective manipulators of their congregations. In some cases, these persuaders even choose our friends for us, as a large, quote, community of tomorrow, unquote, in Florida. Friends are furnished along with the linen by the management and offering the homes for sale. Everything comes in one big glossy package. Somber examples of the new persuaders in action are appearing not only in merchandising, but in politics and industrial relations. The national chairman of a political party indicated his merchandising approach in the election of 1956 by talking of his candidates as products to sell. In many industrial concerns, now the administrative personnel are psycho-tested and their futures all charted by trained outside experts. And then there is the trade school in California that boasts to its employers that it socially engineers its graduates so that they are, to use the phrase of an admiring trade journal, quote, custom-built men, unquote, guaranteed to have the right attitudes from the employer's standpoint. What the persuaders are trying to do in many cases was well summed up by one of their leaders, the president of the Public Relations Society of America, when he said in an address to members, quote, the stuff with which we work is the fabric of men's minds, unquote. In many of their attempts to work over the fabric of our minds, the professional persuaders are receiving direct help and guidance from respected social scientists. Several social science professors at Columbia University, for example, took part in a seminar at the university attended by dozens of New York public relations experts. In the seminar, one professor, in a sort of chalk talk, showed these manipulators precisely the types of mental manipulation they could attempt with most likelihood of success. All this probing and manipulation has its constructive and its amusing aspects, but also, I think it is fair to say, it has seriously anti-humanistic implications. Much of it seems to represent regress rather than progress for man in his long struggle to become a rational and self-guiding being. Something new, in fact, appears to be entering the pattern of American life with the growing power of our persuaders. In the imagery of print, film, and airwave, the typical American citizen is commonly depicted as an uncommonly shrewd person. He or she is dramatized as a thoughtful voter, rugged individualist, and above all as a careful, hard-headed consumer of the wondrous products of American enterprise. He is, in short, the flowering of 20th century progress and enlightenment. Most of us like to fit ourselves into this picture, and some of us surely are justified in doing so. The men and women who hold up these glowing images, particularly the professional persuaders, typically do so, however, with tongue-in-cheek. The way these persuaders, who often refer to themselves good-naturedly as, quote, symbol manipulators, unquote, see us in the quiet of their inter-office memos, trade journals, and shop talk is frequently far less flattering, if more interesting. Typically, they see us as bundles of daydreams, misty hidden yearnings, guilt complexes, irrational emotional blockages. We are image lovers given to impulse and compulsive acts. We annoy them with our seemingly senseless quirks, but we please them with our growing docility in responding to their manipulation of symbols that stir us to action. They have found the supporting evidence for this view persuasive enough to encourage them to turn to depth channels on a large scale in their efforts to influence our behavior. The symbol manipulators and their research advisors have developed their depth views of us by sitting at the feet of psychiatrists and social scientists, particularly psychologists and sociologists, who have been hiring themselves out as practical consultants or setting up their own research firms. Gone are the days when scientists confined themselves to classifying manic depressives, fitting round pegs in round holes, or studying the artifacts and mating habits of Solomon Islanders. These new experts, with training of various thoroughness, typically refer to themselves as motivation analysts or motivation researchers. The head of a Chicago research firm that conducts psychoanalytically oriented studies for merchandisers, Louis Cheskin, sums up what he is doing in these candid terms. Quote, "Motivation research is the type of research that seeks to learn what motivates people in making choices. It employs techniques designed to reach the unconscious or subconscious mind because preferences generally are determined by factors of which the individual is not conscious. Actually, in the buying situation, the consumer generally acts emotionally and compulsively, unconsciously reacting to the images and designs in which the subconscious are associated with the product." Unquote. Mr. Cheskin's clients include many of America's leading producers of consumer goods. These motivational analysts, in working with the symbol manipulators, are adding depth to the selling of ideas and products. They are learning, for example, to offer us considerably more than the actual item involved. A Milwaukee advertising executive commented to colleagues in print on the fact that women will pay $2.50 for skin cream, but no more than 25 cents for a cake of soap. Why? Soap, he explained, only promises to make them clean. The cream promises to make them beautiful. Soaps have now started promising beauty as well as cleanliness. This executive added, quote, "The women are buying a promise," unquote. Then he went on to say, quote, "The cosmetic manufacturers are not selling lanolin, they are selling hope. We no longer buy oranges, we buy vitality. We do not buy just an auto, we buy prestige," unquote. The reason why I mention merchandisers more frequently than other types of persuader in this exploration is that they have more billions of dollars immediately at stake, and so have been pouring more effort into pioneering the depth approach. But the others, including publicists, fundraisers, politicians, and industrial personnel experts, are getting into the field rapidly, and others with anything to promote will presumably follow. Since our concern here is with the breed of persuaders known in the trade as the, quote, "depth boys," unquote, much of the book is devoted to describing their subterranean operations. For that reason, I should add the obvious. A great many advertising men, publicists, fundraisers, personnel experts, and political leaders, in fact, numerically, a majority, still do a straightforward job and accept us as rational citizens, whether we are or not. They fill an important and constructive role in our society. Advertising, for example, not only plays a vital role in promoting our economic growth, but is a colorful, diverting aspect of American life, and many of the creations of ad men are tasteful, honest works of artistry. As for the new operators in depth, some of them try for good reason to pursue their operations quietly. I frequently came up against a wall in trying to get direct information from companies known to be deeply involved in depth probing. In 2 cases in which officials of such companies had been candid with me, they later called and confessed they had been talking out of turn. They asked me not to identify them or their companies or products, and I have respected the requests for anonymity. Others, particularly from the research organizations, were so frank and detailed about their findings and operations that while I admired their candor, I at times wondered if they had become insensitive to some of the anti-humanistic implications of what they were doing. Some were so cooperative in providing me with remarkable case material and explanations that I now find it embarrassing to try to relate, in cold print, some of what they told me. However, I shall do so, and hope they will not be too offended. In justice, perhaps I should add that the trade journals of the Persuaders occasionally publish soul-searching commentaries on some of the manipulative practices of colleagues. The motivational analyst and symbol manipulator, pooling their talents, and with millions of dollars at their disposal, make a fascinating and at times disturbing team. Results of their maneuvers indicate that they are still quite a way from being infallible. Many of them are quick to admit their techniques are still not precise, but startling beginnings are being made. These depth manipulators are, in their operations beneath the surface of American life, starting to acquire a power of persuasion that is becoming a matter of justifiable public scrutiny and concern. It is hoped this book may contribute to the process of public scrutiny.